guy who loves to talk fantasy baseball.
3-2.
This is Full Count Fantasy Baseball.
In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
Here is your improbable host, Dean Millard.
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. Get in the game where you own the game.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Full Count Fantasy Baseball, presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. We'll tell you all about the UFFS platform and its broadcast on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. We'll tell you all about that as we go as well. But there is one way that we like to get things going on the program here on Full Count Fantasy Baseball, and that's by finding out a question that I'll ask you about the early games.
This is a serious message. Peace and love. Peace and love.
So the earliest game that we have today is the Angels and the Tigers, and it's pretty hard, I'm gonna say, to pass by the television set when Shohei Ohtani is on the hill, improved to 8-1 last night. His ERA is 2.79. And he also went 1 for 4 with a home run, his 40th. He scatters 6 hits, just gives up 1 earned run, and strikes out 8. This guy is incredible. But so what I'm getting at is we got the Angels and the Tigers today. You're not going to see Ohtani on the hill because he was brilliant last night, but you'll probably see him in the batting order, 40 home runs. So I'm asking you not about what was terribly done on the Tigers broadcast, and Jack Morris has been suspended by Major League Baseball for it, but what is a better sports story? Not baseball. What is a better sports story than Shohei Ohtani when it comes to the actual play? I mean, the Olympics brought us some great stories as far as perseverance, battling adversity, young athletes. I would say in Canada, probably the Penny Oleksiak and the Andre DeGrasse stories are huge, but in overall sports, Lionel Messi signing is off the field. That's a huge story, but that's off the field. What's a better sports story right now on field than Shohei Ohtani? I'm honestly, and I'm gonna admit I'm a little bit biased because I'm a massive baseball fan, but I'm not sure there's a lot on play, whether it's field, whether it's ice, whether it's a court, whatever you are playing on. Is there a better story than Ohtani doing something that hasn't been done since Babe Ruth? 40 home runs, and oh yeah, he was the starting pitcher in the All-Star game. It's absolutely incredible. Speaking of incredible, big thanks to Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. It's the most realistic, it's the highest stakes fantasy platform out there. Whatever sport UFFS builds mimics everything pretty much about the league it's based on. So, we've had hockey for a couple of years, 2 champions already. The UFAFL, Ultimate Fantasy American Football League, has their draft this weekend, 53 rounds, because every position matters. And yes, the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball will be the next best thing to owning an actual Major League Baseball team. There will only be 30 franchises. We will have 26-man rosters. We will have a 40-man list. Eventually, we'll have a minor league system. Then there's the Legends League. It is next level, and it's awesome. You are actually running teams, and no more just sticking an outfield out there. If your guy doesn't qualify for left field, he doesn't play left field. Your guys have to qualify in their positions. Check it out, uffsports.com, or email me, Dean_UFLB at UFF Sports to get in touch and get yourself the information that you need. All right, here's what we have on the show today. We're going to get to our 5 headlines of the week. We're going to talk about how you spell relief when it comes to closers, relievers, setup man, whatever it might be. Baseball Thunderdome, a couple of stud pitchers of different statures physically. Waiver wire wins. Well, self-explanatory. We'll tell you some guys that you should be looking to pick up, some of the most picked up and most dropped. Prospect Peak takes a look at the future, and Rule Your League is where I will try to tell you how to improve your league with some different rules or rules to live by when it comes to fantasy sports. And here's how you get in touch with me.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. On
Twitter, you can reach me at Duck Millard. You can also reach the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball if you have questions. DMs are open at UFLB_UFF Sports on Twitter. You can check out Full Count Fantasy Baseball at gmail.com. You can email UFSN at UFFsports.com if you have a fantasy show you think would be great on this network, and a couple of websites to check out: fullcountfantasybaseball.ca and www.uffsports.com. You can find out all about the other sports that we have going. Basketball auctions later in September, and of course baseball auctions for the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball November 5th to 7th. Here's what we're going with headlines today. And I think there's still a debate when it comes to the fantasy MVP race. But with one caveat: batting only. The push to claim fantasy MVP honors, will be a tight one when you consider hitting stats. For me, it's no contest overall. It's Ohtani. The guy is 8 wins, 40 home runs. No disrespect to Vlad Guerrero, but when you factor in the pitching stats, is an easy choice. But if you're just going by hitting stats, this is really close. And here are some interesting projections for both players the rest of the way. So you've got Shohei Ohtani. They're saying he's going to get about 137 at-bats the rest of the way. That's 20 less than what Vlad Guerrero is going to get, about 21 less. They will both expected and projected to hit 12 home runs, 27 RBIs for Ohtani, 31 for Vlad. Ohtani gets the edge in stolen bases by 5. Guerrero obviously has the better average at 312 to 267. They're both projected to have 8 doubles. And the OPS for Ohtani is 969, while it's 1,000 for Guerrero. So Vlad Guerrero making a good case when you just consider the hitting stats. When you bring in the pitching stats, it's no contest. And I don't know how many leagues out there let you have both. I don't know how many leagues out there will let you start both. We will. In the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball, you will be able to take advantage of Ohtani's pitching stats and hitting stats on the same night, just like the Angels do in real baseball, because we are everything about keeping it real and realistic with Major League Baseball. All right, let's spin on to story number 2. And Giants starter Logan Webb continues to weave a wonderful season. Tuesday, he struck out 8 over 7 1/3 on just 83 pitches. In his last 8 starts, he owns a 1.88 ERA. He has fanned 44 batters and 43 in the third innings. He has 25 Ks in his last 3 starts. Fantasy owners who grabbed him before or just after he returned from injury could be riding a guy to a title right now. And he's not going to win the Cy Young, but he's having a Cy Young second half season. And there's a lot of guys like Bueller, like Kevin Gausman, who is a teammate of Webb. But he's not going to get R.J. Anderson, Zach Wheeler, Corbin Burns, Gausman, as I mentioned. These are the guys in Bueller that are going to Brendan Woodruff. DeGrom is hurt, so the kind of the stable door is wide open, and the horses are running wild right now trying to bring home a Cy Young. But If you picked up Logan Webb at any point in the last little while, you are loving it right now because he's absolutely dealing, especially in his last 8 starts. And the third story, George Springer bounces on the IL again. The Blue Jays offseason signing had a disastrous first half because of injuries. He was heating up since the break. He had 11 home runs, 18 RBIs, and a 1.130 OPS since the All-Star break. But now he has a grade 1 knee sprain, which will keep him out multiple weeks. This guy, because of injuries, has been pretty much a bust 90% of the time this season. Just 49 games of service for the Jays and fantasy owners and GMs is what they've had from Springer. And for me, he was a guy I drafted high in one of my leagues. And thankfully, I still have some other studs on that team, and I'm still in first place. But George Springer needs to come back down the stretch at some point and do some really good stuff before people are going to think about, calling this season any kind of a success for the Blue Jays offseason signing. And a guy who I think a lot of people took high in fantasy, thinking that he was going to be leading off in this order and doing so many great things. All right, this is a real sad one. A mean stretch of struggles after almost being automatic for 6+ innings each game earlier this season. John Means, the Orioles starter, has done it just once in his last 9 starts. He's either not healthy or he's not getting as much help when it comes to spin rate after the MLB crackdown. Tuesday, he gave up 4 earned runs over 4 innings on 8 hits. He has a 6.10 ERA since coming off the IL in 6 starts. It is time to bench John Means until he recovers, if he does. But this might just be returning to the mean, pardon the bad pun. So I would be careful with John Means, who earlier meant business and now he means struggles. And finally, some big nuts are almost back. Trout, Betts, Syndergaard, finally some action for these guys. Mike Trout was on a pregame workout on Tuesday, and now the Angels will wait to see how he responds. Across town, Mookie Betts and Clayton Kershaw also resuming baseball activities. Betts has been on the IL with a hip injury caused by bone spurs. Kershaw is throwing, but we won't be back until September, and Noah Syndergaard is close to coming back. However, the Mets have already said they will be using him as a reliever this year when he's back, so temper your fantasy expectations. If Syndergaard is a guy you have been stashing, I traded him last year knowing he was going into Tommy John. I feel bad for the team who I traded him to because they're not going to get any fantasy value. I also traded for Dustin May this year of the Dodgers when he went on the IL, hoping he doesn't go through the same thing that Syndergaard is going through this year, and Dustin May is back, at least halfway through next season. But when you trade for these guys, you're really, really hoping. I just traded for Oscar Klefbom in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, hoping that in 2022 he's healthy and ready to resume because he also has a pretty awesome cap hit. All right, let's move on to how do you spell relief. Talking about the bullpen now. These are closers with strikeouts and saves in the last 30 days. And Will Smith of the Braves, pretty good balance. 12 Ks, 8 saves. The most saves out of any closer in the last 30 days. Gregory Soto, higher on the Ks, just 1 save behind Will Smith. So a guy from the Tigers that you would be looking at in the last month anyway. Raisel Iglesias of the Angels, right there with 18 Ks. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, and he's been pretty automatic. Mark Malonson of the Padres, turning back the clock a little bit. He was the leading save guy earlier in the season. These are numbers, of course, that are just in the last 30 days when it comes to overall saves. But Mark Malonson, man, that guy, he was on, and he's still leading, actually. I just had to look it up. 34 saves for Malonson. Gives him a 4-save cushion on Liam Hendricks, who just missed out on this list. Edwin Diaz of the Mets with 15 Ks and 6 saves in the last 30 days. But Iglesias has 27 saves, so he's on that list, and he's third in Major League Baseball. How about Alex Reyes making a comeback? Was a starter, turned into a reliever. He also has 27 saves. And Will Smith of Atlanta, a 26-save season, and certainly having a wonderful last month when it comes to closers, because obviously you're not wanting your closers to give up a whack of runs and hits, because then you're getting your whip and your ERA, but you're assuming your closer gets in and gets the job done. The odd time there's going to be a blow-up, but you want a good balance of these numbers. You want, 8 to 9 saves in a month and somewhere between 12 and 20 strikeouts, depending on the type of the pitcher. You can't force a pitcher to be something he certainly is not. But that's a little bit look at how you spell relief. And by all means, hit me up on any of our social media feeds, at Duck Millard or at UFLB_UFF Sports, or wherever you're watching this, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on the UFSN channel. Definitely hit me up and let me know some of your thoughts on that stuff. All right, we're going to get into baseball, Thunderdome, and waiver wire wins when we get back.
This is Full Count Fantasy Baseball.
You lollygag the ball around the infield.
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports.
You lollygag your way down to first.
Get in the game where you own the game.
You lollygag in and out of the dugout. Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers, indeed. All right, Full Count Fantasy Baseball is part of the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, your one-stop fantasy sports shop. We are building something all fantasy fans will love, and we're looking for quality programming to join us. We have a brand new football show, American football show, that will debut next week, and we are building more great programming. If you would like more information, please send an email to ufsn@uffsports.com. That's ufsn@uffsports.com, or you can hook up on Twitter at UFS Network. That is at UFS Network, and DMs are open. So yes, Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports is the latest and greatest in fantasy, and you are going to absolutely love it. We will have UFLB, Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball franchise auctions November 5th to 7th. Keep it locked on this show or uffsports.com to get the latest information when it comes to all of that great stuff. The greatest fantasy league you will ever participate in. All right, right now let's get to Baseball Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
You be cocky and arrogant, even when you're getting beat.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Prediction? Yes, prediction.
And right now, I've got 2 men.
It's serious.
All right, it is indeed serious. Baseball Thunderdome works just like the real Thunderdome. 2 players enter, only 1 leaves as the champion. So, who do you got for Baseball Thunderdome this week? I'm going with a couple of pitchers that at one point pitched in the National League. Both won Cy Youngs. Both are World Series champs. And both eventually pitched in the American League. Who do you got? Baseball Thunderdome, Pedro versus the big unit as they collide on Baseball Thunderdome. You've got 2 very different pitchers here. Pedro, obviously much shorter than the big unit, who is 6'10", and basically reached the plate when he got through his windup, but both through absolute fire. Both had fiery attitudes. I mean, who doesn't remember Pedro and Don Zimmer, or Randy Johnson and the camera guy when he went to New York? Both of these guys, they meant business. Get out of their way. They're busy. They're going to blow strikes by you and get it done. So who do you take? I am always partial to lefties. I'm a right-handed thrower when I played baseball as a kid. But I love lefties. Koufax, Kershaw, and Johnson. Now, Johnson throws as hard as anybody ever did. So I would probably go with the big unit over Pedro, but Pedro was incredible. And just for the Don Zimmer, he might be worth it. So who you got? I would love to hear from you on this one. Hit me up on Twitter at Duck Millard, or email us fullcountfantasybaseball@gmail.com. You can also get us at UFLB_UFF Sports, or just put a comment wherever it is you're watching it, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be. Twitch, if you're watching it on our UFFS Twitch channel, thank you very much. Baseball Thunderdome this week. Lefty fireballer Randy Johnson, the big unit, versus righty fireballer Pedro Martinez. Both former Expos, too, if you think about it. Both started their careers in Montreal. Incredible, the players Montreal, the All-Star team, the Hall of Famers you could pull out of the history of the Montreal Expos. I don't know if there's one for every position, but there is a lot of them. Pretty impressive. Baseball Thunderdome today. That's what we're going with. Pedro versus the big unit. All right, let's get on to waiver wire wins now. And these are guys we're going to tell you who you should be looking at to try and pick things up. And some interesting news out of the Diamondbacks lately. They no-hit the Padres the other day, and now Josh Rojas, second baseman, is on fuego. 520 average, a home run, 5 RBIs, and a 1.436 OPS in the last week. Hot stick going since coming back from a stint on the IL with a dislocated finger. Along with his home run, he has a triple and 4 doubles, which is why the OPS is so high. Not a lot of great things coming out of Arizona this year for fantasy, as opposed to the no-hitter the other day. But Rojas could be a depth or an injury replacement down the stretch. He is on just 53% of the rosters in CBS. Another guy I would be looking at, if you could, is David Price. Mitch White last night, an incredible game for the Dodgers. Came in, I think it was in the second inning. As you know, the Dodgers don't have Urias right now. They don't have Kershaw right now. They obviously don't have Trevor Bauer right now. And what Mitch White did yesterday for them was it was incredible. He came in and pitched 7 1/3. Just took over after an inning and 2/3 from the starter Justin Brule, and boom, Mitch White just took over. You might see David Price doing, he's going to be starting some games. So David Price could be another guy until the Dodgers get everything sorted out in the rotation. Of course, they picked up Scherzer, but Urias, Kershaw, and Bauer out of that rotation means somebody's going to have to step up. So keep an eye on David Price. Now, one of the most added players this week has been the Jays' Teoscar Hernandez, followed closely, really closely, by his teammate and pitcher, Hyun-Jin Ryu. The guys going the other way have been a couple of pitchers in Kyle Hendricks of the Cubs and Blake Snell of the Padres. So a little bit of look at what's happening when it comes to the waiver wire, who's being dropped, who has being picked up, and who might help you win it all down the stretch. We'll take a look into the future with Prospect Peak. We'll take a look at a youngster you could look at stashing on your roster, and Rule Your League is where we will tell you how to make your league a lot better. All of that coming up right after this.
This is Full Count Fantasy Baseball.
How's the elbow, Scott? You know, it's good. It's really good. It's great. I can't throw the ball. Good news is, we want you to play first base for the Oakland A's.
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports.
But the thing is you don't know how to play first base.
You own the game.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
That is one of the best scenes. I might just have to go watch Moneyball tonight just to rewatch some of those incredible scenes. The late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman as Art Howe in that You're Killing This Team. It's just incredible. Great movie. Some really funny and great acting as well. Full Count Fantasy Baseball presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. It is easily the most realistic platform around. There is actually a scouting program. Yes, You scout real-world players and then auction them off to fantasy franchises. And you're not just scouting this year's draft. You're scouting 3 years in advance. So you really got to know your scouting stuff. You have to, how scouting works is you bid on a spot. There are 60 in baseball that will be auctioned off each year. Once you win that particular spot, you pick the player. So there's no list to go by. You got to create your own list. So this gets all the fake scouts and the wannabe water cooler fantasy guys out of. This is high stakes, man. Big prize pots. There's going to be digital assets, athlete NFTs. It's on the Zilliqa blockchain. I mean, this is next level stuff, guys and girls. You are going to love it. You want more information? Email me, Dean_UFLB at UFF Sports. Dean_UFLB at UFF Sports. That is how you get a hold of me, or get me on Twitter at Duck Millard. Get in the game where you own the game. More information at www.uffsports.com. I'm telling you, it is phenomenal. We have our American Football League draft this weekend. It's 53 rounds because O-linemen are a part of this. You are going to feel like you are actually You're going to be like Brad Pitt in that scene in Jonah Hill where they're pumped about making a trade. It's next level fantasy. It's the closest thing to running a real Major League Baseball team. And, I'm speaking to former Major League Baseball players routinely now about getting involved. So really, really excited about that. Also excited about this prospect as we move into prospect peak. Reed Detmers of the Angels is the starting pitcher. He went 6 innings, scattered 3 hits, just 1 earned run, and struck out 6, getting the quality start to pick up his first career win. The rookie had a rough start to his career, giving up 11 earned in his first 9 1/3, but versus Houston this week, he was great in picking up the first career W. Detmer could become a key part of the Angels' rotation built around Ohtani. Those guys got to get healthy too, with Mike Trout on the IL. But Reed Detmers is a guy that if you can be a little bit patient with him, he will pay off. He'll get some cushion in that rotation as a younger guy. And if your trade deadline hasn't happened and you can reach out and try to get this guy from somebody, I'd look into it, or look at stashing him possibly at some point on your roster.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
I don't think it taints it.
What'd you talk about, mister?
You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
All right. In Rule Your League, what we're trying to do is give you some rules to live by when it comes to running your fantasy team, or some rules that will make your fantasy league better. So that's what we're going with in Rule Your League. Try to make your league better or make you a better fantasy GM. So the rule I have this week, I would think is usually a no-brainer. It is don't end your league on the final day of the season. This is almost as bad as having playoffs during a bye week of football, which one of my leagues had last year. Idiotic. I know COVID and everything, but you got to adjust. You cannot have playoffs during a bye week. That is so dumb. I can't even believe it happened. But ending your league on the final week of the season is awful. It's horror awful because guys get sit and they're going into the playoffs. It just doesn't make any sense. You need a big week from Mookie Betts? Well, the Dodgers are probably resting them, having locked up a playoff spot, hopefully. Same thing with Aaron Judge if the Yankees are going to the playoffs. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Starters, their starts get skipped because they're setting up for the postseason. So in one of my league, set up by my former co-host Jordan Blundell, he has it ending on the regular season. The end of the regular season. That is awful.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Anyway, I don't even think that league is happening. Like, the league has been a bit of a gong show this year, so I don't know what's happening to it. I'll be glad to win, take my money, and move on to something else because I am in first place. But if I lose the final because one of my guys was rested because it's at the end of the season, I'm going to be choked. Always have your season end at least 1, if not 2 weeks before. Unless you're in the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball, because we go right to the end of the regular season. Then we have a playoff draft. So if you're a wild card team, you're going to be drafting a lot of those guys in the wild card games from the playoff draft to fill out your roster because you need to keep advancing. So we go right to the regular season end, crown a regular season champion, division winners and wild card teams get into the playoffs. We do a playoff draft, and then you go on. But if you're in a regular, not Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball, best league ever kind of type situation, you have to end your league before the end of the regular season. That's Fantasy 101. I can't believe that this is happening, but I don't know. I don't know what to say. Awful, awful stuff. All right, just about time to wrap things up, but I want to know what people are watching this weekend. Hit me up on Twitter at Duck Millard, or leave a comment wherever you're watching. I'm going with the White Sox and the Rays. Battle for the best record in the American League. I know Houston is in there as well, but this would be a great series, White Sox and Tampa, to see really who is the top team in the American League. Also, I'll be watching the UF-AFL player draft. Check it out on aosports.tv for all the details on that. 53 rounds, and they're doing a special show, Andy McNamara. If you check out actually the teaser on the UF-AFL draft right here on UFSN, our YouTube channel, you will see a little teaser of what the draft is going to be like this weekend. We put out a show, and we will have a very cool show next week debuting when it comes to football. This is where you need to go for all the information, www.uffsports.com. That is the website where you can find all about how to become a fan, a scout, join a team, buy a team possibly, who knows. And of course, Full Count Fantasy Baseball is a part of Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. See right there, there's this one video explaining the draft this weekend. You can go check it out right now. It's your one-stop fantasy sports shop, and we would love for you to be a part of the growing programming at UFS Network. To find them on Twitter, you can email ufsn@uffsports.com. Here's some of the shows that we have. We've got the UFFS podcast every second Sunday. 2 Minute Tuesday with Darren Bates. Tracking the Draft with Craig Button has actually ran out. We'll be replacing that next week with a American football show. This show, Full Count Fantasy Baseball, every Thursdays at noon Eastern. UFHL Now covers the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. That comes out on Friday. And once a month, we will have the Ultimate Roundtable. All right, one more piece of advice to give you before we let you go.
You be cocky and arrogant, even when you're getting beat.
And it is now time to say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining me on the program today. It's always a pleasure talking fantasy baseball with everybody. Remember, ban the shift. It is the trap of baseball. It is baseball version of the trap, and the shift needs to go. Good luck in fantasy, everybody. I hate the shift. Can you tell? Thanks very much for watching Full Count Fantasy Baseball, presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, where you own the game.